welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and today we have Mr. Pokemon himself, the Amiibo Hunter, the insert here, the collectible you're looking for, Hunter. It is Bobby back in the co-host chair. Welcome back, Bobby.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Welcome, Brokettes. Glad to be here.
And this is someone who, very appropriately, again, the universe just happens to set the right co-host during the right week because we've got the Game Awards this week, which Bobby, of course, followed very closely. But first, if this is your very first episode, the way we format the show is first we go through a bulk of news, which is most of the episode. And then this week we end it with the Broket Block, the more personal side of the podcast, what Bobby and I have been doing this week, playing, reading, watching, where you get to know us a little bit better. So let's jump right into sector number 487 with the 2021 Game Awards highlights. So this one was pretty big as far as trailers go. Before we go into this first one, though, we had talked a little bit before we started recording. What do you think is the perception from gamers on the Game Awards?
So it's mixed. Before we even get to the answer to that question, real quick disclaimer for everyone out there listening to me. A lot of people don't like Jeff Keighley for obvious reasons. He's just whatever. They think he's a douche, and he's jumping up and taking advantage of this situation to claim this throne of video game king to do these game awards and stuff like that. Whatever. I don't care for the guy. I know he's got a lengthy history. I don't care about that. I don't even know all of it. I will not side with him or take his side, or I don't, jump and get on my knees, like, oh my God, it's a show by Jeff Keighley. No, I don't care. Here's what we need to look at, and I think this is why it's embraced by majority of the community and the rest don't like or not care, is because who else does anything else for video games when it comes to like their own awards? Nothing. Nobody. Like, this is all we get, so we might as well take it. We don't like the guy, or we don't care for him, but nobody else is stepping up and trying to do it. I mean, he started this thing with Spike back in, I think, 2011. And it's grown. He's not partnered with Spike or Paramount anymore. Now he's on his own. He's got his own thing. The advantage to all of us as gamers is we have someone that has gotten the ear and partnership with everyone in the gaming industry, all the studios, all the developers, all the publishers. They all give him the scoops. Like when he has his awards, he has trailers from them or leaks or interviews or scoops from them directly to give to us. So we have to appreciate as gamers. We put that, we put everything else aside, then that's good. Everything else, whatever, who cares? I think as far as answering your question, like a lot of people really don't care. And I know most of our audience don't care for him either, but if we set that up, we've got some cool info that got put out there and some neat trailers we saw. And as a gamer myself and some others, like there's some really cool stuff out there. And I know a lot of people will say like, forget that. I'm not watching the Game Awards. I won't support that. But what do? They go watch all the trailers that were on the Game Awards later, which is fine. They're just piecemealing for what they want to see. So again, there's good content that comes out of it. It's just how we choose to digest it.
I think that's how I ended up going with, and a lot of gamers too. I know people in our circle, like lazy gaming guys, they ended up just checking out the trailers after the fact, or as they came out, they would go on Discord like, oh, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Paramount Plus released a new Halo trailer, all of that. They would just catch after the fact. They didn't really care. They said they didn't care about the awards and who got what, but they would still bitch about certain games not getting nominated, which I thought was kind of funny. Yeah. But that's gamers for you.
Yeah, and the awards themselves are kind of a quack in itself because whatever. But it's really weird how the voting comes down. I don't have all the details, but it's not like how other shows are done. So it's a little bit different. So because of that, a lot of people don't care. So I can respect that.
The very first trailer that ended up releasing was for Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Do I look like I need your power?
The first film, it made $319.7 million at the box office, making it one of the year's biggest hits and the most successful video game movie of all time. I think that was 2019 when it released, and it is the first year that an MCU movie was not the number one film of that year. And Sonic the Hedgehog 2 ended up giving us a first look at Knuckles the Echidna, my favorite Sonic character. I still haven't seen Sonic 1. Y'all know the reasons why I won't see it. But Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I am in for. And Leo, who has been watching these dinosaur YouTube shows, they've been showing Sonic the Hedgehog 2 like crazy on there. And normally he skips the ad, but he sits through Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and he's like, I want to see that. I want to see that. And I'm like, fuck yeah, we're going to see that. We're going to watch Knuckles the Hedgehog, the movie, or Knuckles the Echidna, featuring Sonic and friends. So I'm personally pretty excited for this one.
Yeah. I thought, didn't it come out in 2020?
It was right, the year that COVID happened is when it came out. So I think it was 2019.
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember now because of all the loss we've had. But
yeah.
I think that movie is coined as the movie that started the pandemic.
Yeah, something like that. It was right before the pandemic, so it lucked out where it got the audience, and then boom, pandemic, and everything shut down.
Trailer looks cool. It looks like it's more of an adventure type, action type movie with Sonic instead of an origin type film that we got the last time. So looks exciting. I have a question for you though. Brokettes, feel free to bash on me later. I don't pay attention to Sonic too much. I just didn't. I missed it when I was growing up. It didn't hit my period. Is Knuckles an enemy, or is he created by Robotnik?
So the way that the video game lore works is Robotnik has come to the floating island where Knuckles is guarding the Chaos Emerald, or the Master Emerald is what they call this one. It's huge, and Robotnik wants it to power up his machine that you fight up one of the bosses at the very end, and you end up saving the Master Emerald. But what Robotnik does is when he gets to the island, he tells Knuckles, I'm not trying to steal your emerald. There's this guy coming called Sonic the Hedgehog, and he's trying to steal it. So he tricks Knuckles into fighting Sonic for most of the game, while Robotnik takes the emerald and uses it. And it's not until the end that Knuckles finds out he's been betrayed, and that's when the switch happens. And that was mainly in Sonic and Knuckles.
Okay, gotcha. So he's not really an enemy, but he's kind of tricked into it because of the deception of who's trying to take the emerald.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay.
And it looks like that's what we're going to see in this movie as well, that Knuckles is going to fight Sonic. He's probably going to be tricked. They're going to team up at the very end. In Japan, the official title is Sonic and Knuckles, or Sonic versus Knuckles, kind of like the video game, which is kind of neat that they changed it for that country. And right now it is set to release on April 8th, 2022. Seems like a lot of positive buzz. And I haven't seen the first one, but it seems like yet another example of a video game film that ends up adapting the material pretty well. And along those same lines, Paramount Plus is looking to do the very same as it released its first look trailer at the Halo live-action TV series.
As a new beginning.
The 9-episode series was originally slated to air on Showtime, but a move to Paramount Plus was announced back in February. It's set to come out sometime next year. We don't have a solid release date, but this looks fucking awesome.
Yeah, looks really cool. You can tell they spent the money on it, which is well deserved. We've got some heavyweights behind it too. Isn't Steven Spielberg involved in it?
I wouldn't be shocked if he was a producer.
Yeah, I think he's somewhere involved in there. I might be completely wrong, but regardless, it looks good. It's had a history the past few years of script and who it's going to and who's going to do it. It's been up and down, up and down, and up and down. So finally we have something. Very interested to see what they do. It's going to have a very large fan base from all across, whether they're, people involved or not involved. We're going to see lots of crybabies because there's a lot of people that are entrenched in the lore. They read the books and not only just play the games, read the books. The good thing is all that stuff's canon. So some of the people that don't read the books are going to complain and wonder and not understand, but that's fine. If they do it right, they do it right. It's all that matters, right?
Something that Maceo mentioned when we were hanging out the other night was that there seems to be some nervousness over Master Chief and how they use him in the series, because from what I understand, he doesn't have a lot of dialogue in the games. So if you have a Halo series, are you going to have it starring Master Chief? And if so, would you you'd have to have a ton of dialogue, or do you have him be like this background kind of legendary badass, and then you follow this other core set of heroes, which I think might be the way to go personally.
Yeah, that is true. Master Chief doesn't do a lot of dialogue. He doesn't talk that much. He's just a weapon, pretty much, but not a weapon in a bad way. A savior, follows mission orders and save humanity type thing. So he doesn't talk that much. I think this is going to revolve around the Spartan Corps and the army and the events of the Halo system and everything that's going on. And the high points are when you see the Spartans. We might not even, who's to say we see Master Chief? I could be wrong. I don't know if we saw 117 in the trailer, but it could revolve around other events. And we know this can be done well because it did well with Reach. Reach was around a squad of Spartans that were not Master Chief. So it's very possible. And, everybody else talks. They have dialogue. It's just Master Chief. He just responds to things. He's very short answered. He doesn't talk that much. So that's what I think. And Mace's probably right. We're probably not going to see too much of him. And when we do, we're just going to see him just kicking ass or responding very lightly. But I don't think we're going to see like this full-fledged show with starring Master Chief every day. That's not what we're going to see, which is fine. Everything in the universe is really cool. So,
do you personally have Paramount Plus, or would this be something that would make you subscribe for a month to catch it?
I do not have Paramount Plus. I was going to recently, I was thinking about doing I think they give a 10-day trial. I was going to do it to watch the new South Park special that's on there.
Oh, cool, man. Why is that on there and not on HBO Max? That fucking sucks.
Because Paramount paid them. It was a $170 million contract or something.
Shit.
So now it's not Warner anymore that owns them. So Matt Parker and Trey Parker, Matt Stone are now owned by Paramount. So that's why the first two specials are on HBO Max.
Right.
But the newest one was under the Paramount umbrella. So that's why it's on Paramount Plus.
I didn't know that. That's news to me.
They got paid for life. So you're going to see a lot of South Park content now go to Paramount. I wouldn't be surprised if they're off Comedy Central, but I don't know who owns Comedy Central. So
the good news is that Paramount Plus tends to release a lot of their content on Blu-ray and 4K, unlike Netflix. I've seen like the Star Trek stuff gets released on DVD even, which is pretty good. I think that's a positive sign. So for people like me who don't want to sign up for another streaming service, I am going to be buying the Halo series when it releases, and then apparently the South Park special, because I love South Park, and if that's the only way to watch it, then so be it.
The first two were really good. The COVID special, and then the second one was the vaccination special, and then this one is the post-COVID special.
Gotcha.
I probably won't sub to Paramount Plus. I'll take advantage of a free trial somewhere on the line. Although, if I remember correctly, I think Paramount Plus is only like $4. So it's extremely cheap. So you could buy it, watch what you want, and get out. So we'll see.
Okay, yeah, that's not too bad. $4 a month. A surprise release that came out of the Game Awards, and it's something that you streamed as well on YouTube, is The Matrix Awakens, an Unreal Engine 5 experience, and this was available on both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X.
You still got it.
Like riding a bike, they say.
There's no word of this experience being made into a full game. What were your thoughts playing this graphical engine?
Completely blown away. I had to play it twice to make sure I got the gist of it because, by the way, if anybody has a PS5 or a Series 1X or S, please go download it. It's free and try it out. It's only 15 minutes. It's not long. And then if you want to spend more time in it, you can mess around in the city that they dump you into afterwards.
Oh, cool.
It's an experience. The power that the Unreal Engine 5 has is completely absurd. It's disgusting. That video that you see in the beginning, and I'm not going to spoil, but there's a video that you see in the beginning. It's actually not a video. That's all video game projection. So if anybody has seen it and you thought that was like recorded video on a video camera, then that's not. That is video game engine Unreal 5 at its best. So it is pretty good. There's a car scene in there. It replicates what you see in the first Matrix movie. It's replaced by a new character. You get to play part of it. It's really good. Please check it out.
So at what point are they going to start using the Unreal Engine 5 for video games?
They're starting to mess around with it now. The thing is this is all new to devs and publishers, so they're trying their best to figure out how to utilize it the best. So this is the first time we've seen something that we can put our hands on. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here, because clearly the new systems can handle it. I will say though, that demo, it only being like 15 minutes, and then that city that it drops you into, that file's like 26 gigs. So that's scary. We'll see where that goes.
Yeah, that will absolutely lead to more memory, more games, and I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't really start seeing the full potential of something like this until maybe the next generation of consoles. Because as you mentioned, a lot of developers, one, how many of them are really going to want to move over to that right away when they already have so many assets in place for the previous one and for existing games? And yes, eventually they will want to, but I don't think that will happen, or at least we won't see the full scope of that until the next generation. But it is cool to see that here's an experience that you can check out, that you can see, like, here's what a glimpse of what could be future video games. And I was watching it. I watched the trailer. I watched some of the gameplay. As someone who's a very casual gamer, I did not see a huge difference from the graphics now and the graphics then. But what I'm assuming is more than anything what this engine's about is going to be the physics. It's going to be the tools that you can use to enhance gameplay for gamers.
Yeah, it's going to be all the things that make it more realistic, the shadowing, the depth perception, the more realistic textures and things like that.
Something else that's looking really polished is Suicide Squad killed the Justice League as it had its first proper gameplay trailer.
Really thought Flasher had us that
So this is a third-person shooter that can be played solo or with up to 4 players in online co-op. If you do play by yourself, you're able to switch between the different characters right on the fly. It is set to come out in 2022, and this trailer did give you a look at all of the different powers, the abilities from the different members of the Justice League. And this game is done by Rocksteady, who did the really good Arkham games, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum. And this is their next big project, and it is looking like it's going to be another solid hit for them.
Looks really good. The gameplay looks exciting. This is the first time we saw some gameplay. So again, this is something through the Game Awards. We did see it before. So it looks like obviously the HUD wasn't available. We didn't see how you're playing those characters. We don't know if you bounce back and forth or you pick one specific character and that's what you play through. We'll find that out later, of course, but it looks solid. Looks really good. I know there's some complaints about the mobs, but saw very little. So my only concern is playing a game like that. If the dialogue is repetitive or if it gets annoying, we won't know that until we get our hands on it. But it looks interesting. I'll be interested to see how that story unfolds. Looks like Flash is kind of evil. I don't know what's up with that. So something's wrong with him. So maybe that's why Amanda has sent out the Suicide Squad to go after the Justice League, because there's something corrupting them, because he had like a shadowy presence around him. His eyes were red. That's the first time we've seen one of the Justice League characters in that light. So it might have something to do with why the Suicide Squad's after the Justice League.
Yeah, and I think the final boss is either going to be Superman or Batman when it comes down to it, if Batman gets infected or with whatever this may be. The one concern I have, I guess, as this is a game that seems to be fully a 4-player adventure, is that might affect the length of the game. Something like Arkham City, which is going to be open world, and I'm sure this one is too. But with a single character, you can do more with, from what I've seen so far, with that adventure. You can expand it with the different trophy hunts. But when you're walking around with a squad of characters, to me, that tells me it's going to be a more action-packed experience, something that isn't quite as large as Arkham Asylum or Arkham City. So that's the only thing I have. And also, they really have to work hard at making sure that each of these characters is balanced and fun to play. Deadshot looked like a lot of fun. That's the one that I personally felt like that's the one I want to try and fly around and shoot off sniper rifle, shots at everyone. He's long range combat. King Shark is close range. Harley Quinn might be, everything same way. It was kind of a little bit hard to figure out where they balance out, but for sure Deadshot and King Shark were long range and close combat.
Yeah, King Shark looks fun. He just wrecking house. So that'll be cool to see how how we play those characters and what that unfolds. We also don't know if it's open world. So like, Rocksteady makes those open world games. We may not get this time. Who knows? We'll find out more later next year as we actually get to see, what progresses and how it happened. I don't think it'd be good if you get to pick with one character and stick with it the whole time. So hopefully you can trade off and pick who you want for each quote unquote mission.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you can just go to your character menu and change them out like you can in like Avengers. You can change characters whenever you want. Who knows? I'm very excited to see that later on.
I imagine you seeing the King Shark gameplay and being like, I guess that's kind of like the Hulk.
Kind of. That's the closest we're going to get, right?
Yeah. I did ask on Twitter what you thought of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League trailer, and Maceo responded, he's at Mac the Murderer. He said, quote, movement around the map looks fucking fun. The enemies you fight look fairly boring so far, end quote.
They're boring because he's not playing the Avengers. Come on, Mace. Play Avengers.
You really want to get him on Avengers?
He's not going to play it. It's just a meme at this point.
Yeah.
Say it on purpose. Now, again, we don't know enough. So, yeah, they look boring because they're meant to make the Suicide Squad members look powerful. So that's what that trailer was for. So who knows when we get to the bosses, what's going to happen when we fight some of the big bads or the heroes in this example, Flash or whoever, Green Lantern.
Something that does look to be open world, although I guess it's not 100% confirmed. You can let me know. Here is Sonic Frontiers, and we ended up getting the teaser trailer. IDW writer and previous show guest, he's been on this podcast before, Ian Flynn, is writing the story to the game. It's set to come out holiday 2022. Scott was already telling me, why don't you get him on the show and see if he can give you a couple of spoilers about the game itself. I want to know if Tangle and Whisper are going to be worked in there. I hope they are. He's obviously the creator of those characters, co-creator, and wants them to thrive. And when we had him on the show, he talked about wanting them to have merchandise and be on video games. And this was before they had official merchandise for those characters. And now we're seeing plushes come out. So that's one thing that I immediately went to, is if you have Ian Flynn, hopefully his characters make it over as well. But seeing this trailer itself, you yourself on Discord called it Breath of the Wild, but with Sonic. Do we know yet if this is a Breath of the Wild style game?
So that was just a cinematic type trailer that they showed us. So we know nothing more than that. That trailer pretty much shows us, the best example I can give that's been compared to is like Shadow of the Colossus, because that big robot thing that he sizes him up at the end, it's like massive. If that's the angle that they're going, that's really cool, because Sonic's going to be just racing around this giant, this massive giant. That's really cool. You can make whole levels out of that. As far as the Breath of the Wild-ish take, you're seeing all these landscapes, and you're kind of seeing like, it's that trope of if you see it, you can go to it, or if you see it, you can go touch it. And that's the whole Breath of the Wild aspect that a lot of the games have copied over, and it's worked. So that's what the trailer shows off, but we don't know that for sure. It's just a cinematic. Some industry insiders have said that it is going to be an open world-ish type game, but whatever. That's just rumor. So who knows? That's all we know. The trademark for Frontiers was filed a couple months ago. I remember seeing that. Now we got the trailer. This was from the original teaser that we got during that Summer of Games thing that we had over the summer, where they just showed him running through the forest, and it said, coming soon. It's good to see more info. Ian Flynn, if you're involved in this, you should come on the show, come back to the show, I should say. And I'd be glad to be around just so you can school me and crush me with your Sonic knowledge. I'm sure Treasure Hunting Sonic would like to be here too, but spread any cool knowledge you have about this game that you're allowed to share would be great.
One thing that did leak from the credits on the game itself is the voiceover is done by the actor that plays Amy. So it pretty much confirmed that Amy's going to be in the game. So that's something that Sonic fans were able to very quickly figure out. Sonic Frontiers is also another game, another example of them going a little bit outside the box with Sonic, and that to some Sonic fans, of course, you got the regular, no, we want another To the Adventure. Why don't you give us a sequel to this? We're Sonic Adventure 3. And I think at this point, I almost expect each Sonic game, because that's the pattern that it's been, is something different. They try to do something new as far as gameplay. And every now and again, they'll revisit the 3D platforming, the 2D classics, or the 2D platforming as well. But it seems to be that pattern where they will try to change up the formula and try to make a different adventure out of Sonic. They don't stick to one thing. And whether it's because they haven't yet found their footing with, that ginormous hit of Sonic, and that's the one that they're going to make sequels to, like they did back in Sonic Adventure and Sonic 1, 2, and 3, or that they know that they can pretty much put Sonic in any type of environment and make it work, because at the end of the day, Sonic fans are going to be there. They're going to support the character, which I do give them credit for.
Yeah. With them, spreading out and trying new things and doing different things. Like, we already have a real movie. I mean, that's cool. It obviously did well the first time. Hopefully it does well the second time. And then bringing games back and trying different things. Yeah, there's some truthful, loyal fans out there that may be upset of going outside the box, but games evolve, and so do movies, obviously. So if the movie can do what it did, then why can't a game that kind of goes away from what it has been? I mean, to be fair, there was one like kind of open world Sonic game back in the day, wasn't there? It was like, was it Sonic 3? Was it like you had to race, or it wasn't contained into single levels?
No,
I think it was something else.
Sonic 3 was a traditional Sonic game, and Sonic's just like Sonic 1, 2, same with Knuckles. I don't recall an open world Sonic personally.
Okay.
The closest that I guess you could sort of get to was the Knuckles levels in the Sonic Adventure series, which even that was an enclosed level, but you went hunting for treasure.
That's what it was. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, you're right. Okay, so it's not the whole game wasn't that way. It was just certain levels within the game that kind of perceived that. Okay, got it.
And after so many years, this might be, I think, aside from like a Game Boy game a long time ago, the first Wonder Woman solo game in a long, long time. And we got the teaser trailer for it and the surprise announcement.
You are Wonder Woman.
The game is being developed by Monolith Productions, which is the maker of Middle-earth: Shadow of War. The game is described as a single-player, open-world action game that will introduce an original story set within the DC universe. No release date currently. I would guess 2023 at this stage, definitely not next year. But this was a pretty big surprise for the show.
I was surprised to see that, especially who it's coming from. I was like, whatever, this is just, throwing in because we got other games, so now we're going to bring this one in. But then when they showed that Monolith at the end, I was like, all right, I'm interested. And why that's important is because if anybody's played Middle-earth: Shadow of War or Middle-earth, I forget the title of the other one, there's two of them. There's a very specific battle system that's in both of those games called the Nemesis battle system. They have a copyright, trademark, whatever. So no other game companies can use it. And it's that's what made those two games very good, is that battle system. It is really cool. So if they're intending to use the Nemesis battle system with Wonder Woman, I'm intrigued, especially next gen or current gen, whatever you want to call it. I think it's going to do well. We'll see what happens. We're probably going to get an open world type game, and there's going to be objectives. You'll be able to skill tree and do different things. It'll be great. It should be great. Hopefully, it's a good studio.
And imagine all of the different gods and goddesses that you'll be able to fight or interact with. If this is set in like a fantasy type of setting, not like you're on, not Wonder Woman 1984, where she's out in the modern world, but where she is in the world of Wonder Woman, of the gods, I think that would truly make for a really fantastic experience. You described this Nemesis system. I have zero experience with these games. What exactly do they have copyrighted?
It's the structure for battling that they won't let anybody else copy. So what happens is, like, the enemies develop like strengths and weaknesses from combinations of like perks and flaws. And then as they level up, they dictate how they act. It, like, the game advances upon itself as you play. It's hard to explain. It's the game itself evolves as you're playing to combat you.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like the leveling itself just stays a little bit ahead of you based on how far you've progressed, type of thing?
Kind of, or how strong you get, because it evolves on its own. It's influenced by how the game works. removing that aspect, if you play a game on easy and just crush the game because you're too strong, well, in this environment, you kind of can't do that because it's adapting to you.
Gotcha.
As you're beating them down, it's like, oh, okay, you're just going to come in and do that spin attack every time. All right, good luck next time. We've got a defense for that now.
That's cool.
Kind of like that. That's the bet. It's layman's terms, but that's the best way to describe it.
Well, that's pretty exciting. This did spark a debate on Twitter over the Wonder Woman fans and the Snyderverse fans, where they were saying there was it sparked this debate of whether or not this game would have existed without BVS or without the Wonder Woman solo film, and Wonder Woman fans got pissed. It was really fucking interesting. But whatever side you lie on, and you know me, I don't think we would have gotten this game without Wonder Woman 1 or BVS. But truly, Wonder Woman is at the forefront. She is an A-lister in 2021 and moving forward, as long as DC doesn't continue to fuck her up like they did with Wonder Woman 1984. So this is a positive sign, at least for the video games. If you don't end up, whatever they end up doing with the movies, it sounds like they're at least in good hands. That the world of Wonder Woman's in good hands with this developer, from what you're saying here.
Yeah. And Wonder Woman's not going to go away. And you're right. They're going to keep pushing her to the forefront, no matter how bad those movies do, because that's the only woman superhero that, little girls or boys have to look up to. That's it. That's all they got. Because sure as hell ain't Captain Marvel.
Right. They tried.
They tried. Case. And yeah, there's some that have grabbed onto it. That's fine. There's a fan base for it. Not going to knock on it. But Wonder Woman just is more powerful, and it's been around longer, and it's been pushed in front of our faces more frequently, to kind of. But now, having these big movies and doing the first one doing so well, the second one trying to do so well, it's being pushed in front of us constantly, and that's really all they have until they bring someone else. Unless they were to take Selena Kyle and make her the biggest thing in the world, that's what we're going to have, unfortunately. I think it's cool. I think it'll work. There's nothing wrong with it. And it's Wonder Woman. She's badass. So, I mean, look at, they keep pushing these DirecTV commercials. Every single one of them evolves around a Warner Brothers property. The first one was around Wonder Woman. It was Wonder Woman and Serena Williams. It was a mashup between the two of them. And now the current one is The Matrix and Serena Williams. So we're just going to keep getting more Wonder Woman.
I'm surprised I thought DirecTV was, AT&T had shed themselves of that. Like, I know they own that. That's why they're doing The Matrix and now DC and all that. I'm kind of surprised, because from what I understand, it's not been profitable at all for them when they bought up DirecTV.
I don't know. The ads I see the ads everywhere. They're on TV. They're on digital. It's the DirecTV Plus, or sorry, DirecTV streaming is what it's called.
Oh, okay.
And they obviously have a contract with Serena Williams, because she's been in both of those, the big ads.
Yeah. So
for whatever, and Gal Gadot played Wonder Woman in the first part. So it's like they're using the actual portrayals. I don't know anybody that has that service. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. I guess they had the budget and they have to spend the money. I guess that's where they're at with it. I don't know.
We might cover a few more depending on what Bobby has on hand. But the last one that I had on the show notes here is Star Wars Eclipse. This is developed by Quantum Dream, who is best known for PlayStation exclusives like Detroit Become Human, and one that I really liked, and Kelly and I played this many years ago when it released, Heavy Rain. There's no release date for Star Wars Eclipse. The teaser itself just showed us cinematics. Do we know if this is going to play like story-based as Heavy Rain did? Is that mainly what they're known for?
Yeah, that's kind of the games that they make. They made Beyond Two Souls. Then they did Detroit 2 or Become Human. So that's the kind of their style. But we know nothing about this Star Wars game, just that long cinematic, which was new to everybody. That's the first time we had heard of it. Funny story about this trailer. And again, if you didn't watch the Game Awards, this is even better for knowing this. Keeley started off the show by pretty much saying that, harassment and douchebaggery will not be tolerated within the games industry. Without naming names, we all know who he was pointing to. He was pointing to Activision. But also, other companies like Ubisoft. Hilarious, though, later in the show, he shows off this trailer, which is like, oh my God, it's a Star Wars game. But it's by Quantic Dream. Quantic Dream is headed by David Cage. That guy's a complete douchebag as well. So it's like a two-sided douchebag here that's talking about, we won't put up with this crap in our industry, but then shows this trailer for Quantic Dream. So I don't understand, but I guess money flows and money talks, and that's why it happened. So yeah, so if nobody knows about that, look up David Cage and Quantic Dream. Guy's an asshole. Quantic Dream has been known for their issues in the past, just like Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard. So I don't care for it. Good for them that they were able to make a Star Wars game because EA, gave away the license. We'll see. I'm sure it'll follow in the footsteps of their realistic looking type games with a heavy story. Maybe they'll pull it off. I couldn't care less. Doesn't matter to me.
One of the things I saw was that, and I guess Star Wars people already recognize some of the characters in the trailer, and that it's based on the High Republic.
Yes.
That's something they're pushing hard as far as the lore. We got all of the comic books. Now we're getting a game, and I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing a TV show or a cartoon, or if the next trilogy of films ends up taking place in the High Republic. But Star Wars fans are absolutely gravitating towards that universe.
I'm sure it'll do well. Star Wars games always do. And for the less inclined, knowledgeable, they're not going to care what studio make it. They're just, hey, it's a Star Wars game. Oh, High Republic? That's awesome. Let's go. For all we know, the game's going to be excellent. Who knows? It might be bad.
Was there anything else from the Game Awards before we go into standard news that you wanted to touch on?
Just for the winners, not going to go over the categories. It doesn't matter. But there was a big shock for Game of the Year. It Takes Two won Game of the Year. Very, very awkward winner there. And they won several other categories as well, which is just odd for a game like that.
How did they determine the winners?
So what it is the reviewers are industry, like people that work for IGN or they work for GameSpot or all these other Kotaku, but they can't just play one game and vote on it. They have to play and vote on several games in the categories. That's the only way they qualify. And then they have to vote based on what is in the nominee list. And then they select a winner from there. So there's no public. I don't think there's a public portion that's in there. If there is, it's like 5%. It's a very tiny amount. But it's the industry pretty much voting on itself, but it's the critics, not the publishers, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Whereas for like the Oscars, it's the industry itself voting on itself versus the Game Awards where it's the critics voting on it. There is one game that I wanted to mention that looks really cool, Forspoken. It's by Square Enix. We're supposed to get that next year. I think it was given a release date of May. Yeah, May 24th, 2022. Looks really cool. It's a female hero and she gets tossed into this world with like powers. It's a fantasy type world. And she's got like these rings that she has that gives her powers. We saw some of it earlier this year with during the games, Summer of Games. They showed some gameplay of it. And at the Game Awards, they showed a larger trailer and then the voice actor for her and then one of the other characters in the game. So I'm interested in looking at that game. That looks pretty cool. I suggest if anybody's interested, go take a look. There's a full list out there of all the stuff that dropped. They're all parsed out into their own trailers and whatnot. One other good category for RPG, best RPG for this year, Tales of Arise won. That was a shocker because that beat out games like, what was in there? I'm forgetting. There were some good games in that category and Tales of Arise won. That was pretty cool. Oh, Genshin Impact was one of them in the category. And then for me, my favorite was best ongoing game. And Final Fantasy XIV won that category.
There you go.
It won against the likes of Fortnite, Genshin Impact, and a bunch of other games. So that's a big win. It's very cool. Very good to see that because that's the game I personally play.
That's a pretty big surprise because a lot of people in our group play Final Fantasy XIV, but it seems like I hear more about Fortnite than anything else. And especially with all of these properties that they have in the game, I think the Matrix even made it into the game now, and they have DC and Marvel and all this other shit in there. So it is all over the place. And the fact that something like Final Fantasy XIV, which seems to be a game that when it comes to open world RPGs, it's Warcraft or it's Final Fantasy. Those are the two that I hear about the most. And that is a pretty big surprise. And it seems to go with the rest of the awards, though, where you were saying the unlikely games seem to have taken it this year.
And 14 has picked up a lot this past year and a half roughly, with the changes the game has made and some big streamers have kind of spotlighted it. And with the same time Activision Blizzard having the problems that they've had, there's just been a mass exodus from World of Warcraft. And that's not just their internal problems. Like the recent expansion of Shadowlands just wasn't that good. So some hardcore fans like myself that played it has been always playing that game. Like, we just don't care right now. It's like, what are you doing? And then you add their personal issues going on in that company. It's like, all right, yeah, I'm done here. So combine, it's just like the perfect storm happened. And 14 is just good. It's always been good, but it just keeps getting better. And it's the story and the writing and the things that you can do in the game is endless. So it's a lot of fun. Scott plays it now. He's been off of it for a while, but now he's back into it. Julian's been playing it forever. Those are two members from LGG that play it. I know Jared, he played a lot of World of Warcraft as well. And he said the same thing. Like, Shadowlands is just like, meh, don't care for it. So if they're going to keep doing that with their stuff, like, Final Fantasy is just going to get stronger and stronger.
Definitely looks that way, especially after a win like this. Gets it more eyes on it, and hopefully more people trying it out. Hopefully they find something that they do enjoy if it's not WoW. Something that came out this week, it's a cancellation, and it's rare that I'm happy about a certain show getting canceled unless I'm like actively rooting for it. And one that I wasn't rooting against is Cowboy Bebop. Netflix announced that the live action series will not be receiving a season 2. And with Netflix set to bring the likes of One Piece, Avatar The Last Airbender, Yu Yu Hakusho to life as live action, some are speculating that this cancellation might put their fates into question. They don't know if they'll have that confidence anymore if you can't have something like Cowboy Bebop warrant a season 2, that maybe adapting anime might not be the right way to go about some of these, or they'll go a little carefully with some of the budgets on these productions. The Hollywood Reporter did say, quote, "Insiders pointed out Netflix's renewal rate for scripted series that have 2 or more seasons stands at 60%, in line with industry averages. And like all Netflix renewal verdicts, the decision was made by balancing the show's cost and viewership," end quote. I didn't really see this happening because people were talking about Cowboy Bebop, good or bad. There was someone who worked on Cowboy Bebop, I think it was a voice actor or one of the co-creators of the show or the manga, that recently passed away. And with Japanese copyrights being so strict, where someone needs to sign off on everything, some speculated that the death of that person is what caused season 2 to not happen, because then they couldn't get them to sign on for it. The actor that played Faye Valentine, she was having a meltdown on Instagram for sure. I watched up till about 2 or 3 episodes left on it. So it goes to show you my interest in it. I didn't hate it, but it also didn't compel me enough to finish the series. Instead, I've been going back and watching the old Halloween movies. I'm in the middle of watching Halloween 2018 before I check out Halloween Kills. I've even been seeing the original Cowboy Bebop and watching that anime. So some of these criticisms that I've noticed from watching it is some people are saying that it's way lighter than the original anime, or that it ignores some of the themes in the original anime. And I saw a lot of the same scenes recreated in live action from this show. So I don't think that was the argument that I personally agree with. Same that it was too lighthearted, because if you go and see the anime itself, there's a lot of comedy in that show. So I don't buy that either. But my personal thing on it is the choreographed fights in the show were not to the standard that I expected for something like Cowboy Bebop. It did seem like a very much TV show type of thing, not CW level, where it's like really bad, but Netflix, but not even to the higher standard of Netflix that it has. So I wasn't as compelled. Some of the characters were changed pretty drastically in the live action version, like Faye Valentine and Vicious. They're not really the characters that you see in the anime. So to me, I'm not crying over it being canceled, but I'm also not rooting for it.
Yeah, I was shocked when this was announced, because it was only about a week or 2, roughly, after it came out, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that long after the whole series premiered.
I think it was very quick. So I don't think this has anything to do, this is just my opinion, I don't think this has anything to do with any type of flack or feedback on social media or anywhere else, or even critics for that matter. Netflix is going to make what they want to make, because they know the biggest thing that we don't know, and we'll never know, is the numbers. They get those numbers and they don't publish them. Nobody does. None of the streaming services do. Well, some of them do very slightly. They'll tout them when they're high, but they will not tout them anywhere else when it's low or mid. This tells me that nobody watched it. That's exactly what that tells me. There was no clicks. They got no watches. Well, I can't say no, but the number was very, very low because obviously they had an expectation to meet budget. And because of that, that's why they quickly decided not to continue. This is important because if they're going to make a second season, they need to get started now. Well, if they just let everybody know now that it's done, they can just move on from this and not try to expect more clicks, quote unquote, out of this show that they want to try to make money on. So clearly they didn't have a subscription rise when it released, because I'm sure they monitor that. And they obviously can monitor how many people start and finish or how far they progress in all these episodes. So those numbers are crap or not to their expectations, whatever those numbers were. And that's why they made a decision, because that's what they do for all their shows, all their movies. I don't care either way. I didn't watch, I didn't like the anime. I started watching it a while back and I just didn't care. So when this was announced, I was like, cool, that's neat for the people that care. And I still don't care. I might watch it one day just because I like, what's his name? John. Forgot his last name. Sorry for the fans that enjoy that really love Cowboy Bebop, though. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, it does suck for them, but as you mentioned, it does seem like it's a smaller base of viewers. Cowboy Bebop is already on its own. Like, yeah, it's renowned as one of the greatest animes, but at the end of the day, anime itself is pretty niche. You're not going to get the general audience that Netflix wants on something like Cowboy Bebop. You're not going to even get a half of what Squid Games or Army of the Dead did for them. You're going to get something a lot less because you got to think about like the moms and the dads. Are they going to click on Cowboy Bebop? Does that sound like something that they would even give a shit about? And the answer is no, they're not. It's going to be people that like me who saw the anime and wanted to give it a shot, or people who want to hate watch it because they saw the anime and they really like the anime. But that is really it. There's nothing here that tells the general audience like, okay, what's this about? You know, how do you sell Cowboy Bebop to someone that knows nothing about it? It's very tough to do. All you can say is it's a space Western, and people don't love Westerns.
Yeah. And you're left to the trailer. So the trailer has to be your magic selling point. And if that doesn't work, then nobody's going to watch it.
We do have some comic book news this week. This is, I think, a very strong move by DC. I do agree with this one. Dark Knights of Steel writer Tom Taylor has signed an exclusive contract with DC Comics. He said, quote, "I'm excited to announce that I have signed an exclusive contract with DC. I've been a freelancer for pretty much my entire working life, and this is the longest contract I've ever signed. Getting to tell stories of my heroes and security, pretty amazing. I can't wait to share everything we have planned for the future. You'll see. Up, up, and away." End quote.
Good for him. He's been knocking out of the park on everything he's touched. Like he's doing Nightwing right now. I love it. He's done some stuff for Marvel. Love that stuff. Obviously, he won't be doing that anymore. My only concern with this, and this happens with everybody, if since he's a writer, if he creates a character, he won't be able to see unless he worked it into his contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like that might hurt him later. Who knows? Maybe not. Hopefully, a lot of that drama has been fixed. Where when somebody creates a character, they kind of retain some ownership over it. I mean, why not? DC needs the help. They've had some issues. Obviously, they only have a couple really good writers in their pen. Keeping Tom Taylor there is a good idea. Hopefully, they don't work him down like they did some other writers in the past. Gail Simone. We get some quality content.
I wonder if this move happened because James Tynion recently turned down an exclusive contract with DC, which he said would have been really long, and he had to really think about it for a while. And instead, he came to the conclusion that he wanted to make independent work as well. And if he had signed this contract, by the time it's done, he was like, I may never get to do independent work if I take this road. So I'm thinking that it almost went to like, all right, well, let's sign on. And Tom Taylor, I'm not saying that he's worse than James Tynion or Tom King or any of them. But, you go down the line and it's like, all right, Tom Taylor, he's done Deceased, which did incredible. He's doing Dark Knights of Steel, which I'm assuming is doing well. I'm no longer working at the comic shop, but I think it's a great story. I like what he's been doing with all of these different universe type of things. He's gotten in the headlines with Superboy coming out as bisexual. Whether or not you like that or not, that moved books for a little bit. It was all speculator driven, by the way. It wasn't from the gay community, but he's still selling books at a rate that's more than just, oh, this new character came out or this character came out as gay or any of that. Tom Taylor's someone who sells stories. He has a concept, he has a pitch, and people gravitate towards it. They understand it. Just like Dark Knights of Steel, it's medieval DC Comics. What's not to love about it? They needed, as you said, someone to stick around and someone that would bring more stories to them, and Tom Taylor is going to be that guy for him.
And if we take a clue from that quote, up and away, is that to mean he's going to work on some Superman soon?
Oh, I'm sure. Absolutely.
Because the one person they signed a couple years ago didn't pan out too well.
No,
and
it's not worth it.
I think he's still under their contract. And
yep.
Who was it? Matt Fraction?
Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh, Bendis. Yeah, Bendis. Yeah, that giant superstar signing turned out to be nothing.
What a dud. The most they got out of it was, I think, the Naomi series, which he worked on, and that's getting a TV show, but that's just, they're hoping and praying that she's the next Miles Morales. You know what I mean? Because that's the only way he'll break even on this contract.
I mean, he's making the money. It's just DC is losing. Yeah. Like, that's insane.
Warner Brothers here is being Warner Brothers again, Warner Butchers. According to The Hollywood Reporter, they are testing 2 different cuts of the Batman film, which either do or do not feature a certain actor. So the rumored character is played by the recently cast Barry Keoghan, who many suspect is playing, spoilers if this ends up being true, the Batman's universe's Joker, which wouldn't shock anyone that they need to put the Joker in this. He's, as much as people complain all the time, I see it in these Facebook groups of Joker is overused, Harley Quinn is overused. It's like, yeah, well, until people stop paying money to every time they come out with a comic book or $1 billion for the Joker film, they're going to keep putting Joker in shit because he fucking sells. People, as much as they don't want to admit it, they will go out and watch anything with the Joker in it. So, but the more important part of this story is that Warner Brothers is still doing this thing where they're letting audiences or test markets decide the fate of a final production of the film rather than letting the director do what they need to do. It's no longer the Warner Brothers that was remembered from many years ago, the artist studio. It's now more or less corporate driven.
Yeah, this just on the surface just tells me they're too scared to make their own decisions because they've had too many failures. And this is more of like, let's see what's trendy, let's see what's popular. And we're just never going to get an actual movie anymore. We're just going to get these weird slices of films that we can't call them films. Weird slices of recordings that appease to the masses, at least partial masses, that make them some money, because the movies they've been put out recently, minus some of the good ones, just are duds. They don't do well. They spend all this money on marketing and then they release it and it just falls flat on its face. WW84 was a perfect example. Lots of marketing behind that movie. And yes, it was delayed a ton and marred by the freaking pandemic. And then the whole fight with the director and the main actor, Gal Gadot, on how it was released, and then having to pay them hush money, essentially. Right. Like, the amount of money they lost on that film. And to be honest fair, yes, their release was super ruined beyond their, it wasn't their fault. But to have that wait, and then we finally get it, and it's just this steamy pile of shit. It's like, what the hell? Really? Waited all this time for this?
You saw it recently, even with Pedo Squad, where movies were doing great around it before and after it came out, and that was another dud for him. This is the direction this is what they get, man. This is exactly what they get.
That movie, there's no excuse for, though, because that one we kind of expect for it to be what it is. It's just a funny bit with a bunch of weird characters. Like,
sure, but it didn't do
casted. That's the problem. It didn't do well. Well, it depends on what you define as well, and I'm not defending it at all. We say it sucks because we hate it. A lot of people don't like it, but it did well in some aspects because, and I don't know the financials, obviously, because it was a Max release.
It flopped at the box office.
The box office is what flopped, but it also flopped in a atmosphere where the theaters were literally just getting off their feet. So it's a weird time. And I'm only saying this to be fair. If the movie sucked, it sucked. You take that slice and you put it into 2018 in the blockbuster summer of 2018. How would it fare then at the box office? Would it be the same exact result of a quote unquote flop?
But
Or would
again,
it do
like
slightly better?
Godzilla vs. Kong came out before it in the worst time of the pandemic where there were more infections and theaters were even less prepared, and that did better than Pedo Squad. Fast and Furious 9, same thing.
Yes, and those are
Mortal
good
Kombat.
counter arguments. Correct. So I can't argue those because those are good counter arguments. Kongzilla is the perfect example because it's Max as well, and it had the same release type where it was theater and
Dual release, yeah.
a dual release. The only weird part with that one, of course, is it was still in a weird time with the pandemic. It wasn't totally cleared up, but yeah, the theaters were open. That is a good example. But also you're looking at Kong and Zilla, which is much more popular than a weird bunch of anti-hero. Actually, none of them are heroes, but weird just characters from the DC universe that only one or two of them are known by the public. Harley Quinn and what's his name?
Exactly.
Jesus, not John Cena, of course.
Not Idris Elba, but his character's
Elba.
not known.
Yeah, his character's not known, but everybody thinks he's Deadshot, and he's not.
Right. Well, even Warner Brothers UK, when they were promoting the film, they called him Deadshot. Accidentally.
Yep, I remember that. He's not Deadshot. He was the guy, I'm forgetting his name, but he was the only one that he was able to kill Superman because he used a kryptonite bullet.
Right.
Krypton bullet. Anyways, back to the point. Yeah, Suicide Squad flopped. It did not do good in the theaters. So to see how this is all going to do, we shall see. Streaming has changed a lot of things, obviously.
It's a slower, painful death again for the current heads of Warner Brothers and DC Films. I think as soon as Discovery takes over in a couple of months, if they're smart, they will put their people in there, fire fucking Toby Emmerich and Walter Hamada and Ann Sarnoff, and put in the Discovery people, and hopefully they're a little bit more competent on how to handle these characters and which filmmakers they can bring back and which filmmakers they can trust to do more. 2022 is going to be a very, very interesting year for streaming, but very specifically for Warner Brothers.
You got to be careful what you ask for. They might fire all those people. Everybody's gonna be so excited, and then they announce in a public release that Kevin Feige's head of everything.
Well, that's one of the things that people are saying, that if Discovery that could be the plan still of, and I don't think it's going to happen based on how David has been talking about how they already have plans and all that, but that they could easily sell these properties off as like a Sony deal, like they did with Spider-Man, of like, hey, make these films, but we still own the rights to them. And if that happens, and as I've said too, like this is the last bastion is David Zaslav for the Snyderverse, at least. If it doesn't happen with him, I think that's it. But the way that Zach has been hinting very strongly, it sounds like he already has a deal in place with Discovery. It's just a matter of when the deal needs to happen before they can officially say, okay, we own these things and here's the projects that are coming out. Because before then, I don't think they're allowed to say anything because of NDAs.
Oh, of course not. Yeah, they can't mess with any of that until it's deal's done and ready to go. So hopefully next year, like you said, we get some tidbits, some info, some changes, and everybody gets happy.
And we got a couple of end of the year roundouts as far as how certain movies did on social media and on IMDb, for example, as they announced its top 10 most visited movie pages of 2021. Dune landed at number 1, which was pretty surprising to me. Zack Snyder had 2 films in the top 10 with Zack Snyder's Justice League and Army of the Dead, which he's the only director to have 2 in that top 10. I was surprised that fucking Dune at number 1. I didn't think that many people had visited that page to check out the trivia or the cast or anything. Like, I know the movie did pretty well, but to be the number 1 most visited movie that released this year, that was pretty shocking to me.
Yeah, well, it's also IMDb, which also owns Rotten Tomatoes, which is also all owned by Amazon. So those numbers can be deceiving. But IMDb is a household name, so that's why everybody searches things and it comes up as the first search result for movie information, because obviously Amazon pays to have it for the first listing on a Google search. So that's why a lot of those movies are going to land up as getting their clicks, because whenever you Google search a movie, IMDb is going to be the first result because they're paying for being the first search result through Google. So
That's just surprising though that many people Googled Dune of all
Yeah.
things.
I mean, it did very well, and it's popular amongst the kids. The kids think it's the greatest movie they've ever seen in their life. So to be fair, they've been on this earth for what, 15 years, 16 years. In some areas, that probably is very true for them. So I'm glad they found a movie that they enjoyed.
Yeah, I think they call it popping your cinematic cherry, where you watch the first film that's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is cinema.
I mean, we all had that when we were
Yeah.
younger. We go
Oh, yeah.
in high school and we go see this movie and we talk about it for weeks on end at school. And then it's like, all right, let's go see it next weekend. It was so good.
Right.
So that's what's happening with Dune right now. The younger generation is just not probably right this second anymore. It's been a while, but back when it was at its height, I'm sure the same people were going and seeing it every week because that was the thing to do.
And the other big site is Twitter, who announced that the Snyder Cut is the most discussed film of 2021. That one, if it wasn't number one, there would have been some rigging happening because we're like, as much as we fucking tweet about it, there's no way it was not number one. You know what I mean? Like, it's constantly trending. You look right now on trending, just the word Zach is trending. And then, like, not even Restore the Snyderverse, like, that is trending, but just Zach even. That's how much people are tweeting about Zack Snyder. So it's pretty amazing. And that's one that he was happy about. On Vero, he was happy about the IMDb results. He was grateful about having 2 listings on there, Army of the Dead and the Snyder Cut. Twitter, of course, if they didn't acknowledge it, it would have been like, guys, we fucking pretty much make your platform. You know what I mean? Like, so many people use your site just to promote and fight for the Snyder Cut. It made a fucking movie happen. So Twitter better fucking fly that flag, and I'm glad they did.
If it's not Zack Snyder that's trending or anything having to do with his films, it's always Batfleck. So if it's not, Ben Affleck, Batfleck, then it's Zack Snyder or Justice League. So bound to happen. And now it's, the other movie, the Air Cut. So
Right.
which we still didn't see a teaser for. We thought we were going to see something for that fandom thing. We didn't. So hopefully sooner rather than later, or maybe when that deal's finally struck, we'll get the goodies.
Yeah, supposedly 2022 as well, and it'll be interesting to see which one happens first. If we either get the Air Cut first or Justice League Parts 2 and 3. But just more stuff that he can take to Discovery and to be like, look, fucking they wouldn't even use this hashtag. Like, Warner Brothers refused to use the biggest hashtag on Twitter. That's how fucking bananas they are over there. They're ego driven. It's insane. And hopefully Discovery is like, oh, that's ridiculous. We can monetize the shit out of it.
Is it actually possible to get more? You said JL 2 and 3. Is it possible for more films to come out of there just because they're partnered with Discovery? Because they just have the streaming platform. Like, they're not a movie studio. Or will the backing come from them, but WB actually produces it? How does that work?
So Discovery now assuming that everything goes through and
Right.
normal next year, they own all of Warner Brothers. And so the AT&T they literally carved out anything that's entertainment, and they're just staying as a telecommunications company. So they're keeping the cable, the phone, all that stuff. But anything that's entertainment that they bought up years ago, they are let Discovery take on all of that debt. And they're owning 30% of whatever they end up making. So they still own 30% of Warner Brothers in a way, but Discovery owns majority. So they own the comics, the film divisions, anything WB. So all of those old films, all of those studios are now owned by Discovery, including HBO Max. So there was that question of what's Discovery going to do now that they have 2 big streaming platforms. And David has hinted in the past that in the future, they want to eventually merge them into one.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay, so it's WB still will do what WB does. However, Discovery will now be in charge of it. So the decision making will change is what it boils down to.
Yes, and David did say recently that Jason Kyler, who's one of the heads of HBO Max, he's no longer going to be with the company. So they're not renewing his contract. They're actually paying him to leave. And when asked about the other heads of Warner Brothers, he declined to comment. So I think that's a good sign, because why else would you not comment?
Yeah, you don't tell people they're fired now when you want to fire them 3 months from now. So, well,
Exactly.
sometimes.
And there were rumors already that Toby was trying to move over to Netflix right before this merger happened because he knew he was going to get fired. So there's just a lot of signs pointing to Discovery, and it's common for companies to do this. They will clean house and it's not start over, but put in their own people.
Okay. So there's hope. There's light at the tunnel. We'll see.
But that does round it out for the rest of the news for the week. Now we head into the Brokehead block, which is what Bobby and I have been doing since the last time you were on. So, Bobby, what do you got?
Well, I've had an eventful past few weeks. I know you know, and some of our Brokeheads know. I was in a lot of pain, unbearable pain. I couldn't sleep. I had a tooth that was going to end me, pretty much. So anyways, bottom line was I just wanted that one out, but I couldn't. I had to get multiple. So I took out 4 teeth total, 3 of them being wisdom teeth. And then one of the one wisdom tooth that caused the problem was pushing into one of my bottom molars. Mm-hmm. It impacted it to where it created a cavity. And that's what was causing the pain. I had the exposed nerve. So it was super sensitive. I was completely terrified. It sucked, but I got it done. Luckily it has been good. No issues since surgery. So recovery has been going really well. My only problem is it's been over a month and I still haven't had chewable food or hard foods. I'm still on liquids and soft foods. So that kind of sucks. I'm now starting to get to the point where I actually want to eat other things, but I can't because I'm terrified because I got these giant holes in my mouth. And when I do, I've just stepped up to, how was it yesterday? I started mac and cheese. So that's my first chewable food. It just, man, it feels so weird when you're chewing and it's pushing up against those holes. It terrifies me. So I know it's probably fine. I just need to get over it, progress my diet. I guess the good side of it is I've lost a ton of weight on this liquid diet, but that's unintentional. It's not what I wanted. It doesn't matter. I'm recovering well. That's the good part. I just got to get used to this side of my mouth missing 2 teeth because one of them was a molar. So it kind of sucks. I got this big hole back there, 2 giant holes back there now. So once those close up, I'll be fine. In the meantime, still being careful what I eat. It's just mashed potatoes, yogurts, and smoothies and stuff like that. And now including mac and cheese, Jello, stuff like that.
It's like an early retirement a little bit, like when you're in a retirement home and
it sucks.
So here's your pill and here's your Jello. You said it was frightening, the actual procedure, because I'm going to have to go through this at some point in the future. Because I was too afraid to do it in my teenage years when the dentist said it was going to be easier to do it then than later when you're an adult. Then now the dentist tells me, look, until it starts hurting or causing you problems, I'm not going to do it. So I'm like, all right, I appreciate that. Yep. Was it the procedure itself that was frightening or leading up to it? What was scary about it?
So myself personally, I've never had any type of medical procedure done beyond stitches. Stitches is the most I've gone in for to have something done by a doctor. Other than that, I've been healthy and not had injuries to have anything done like that. So the thought of pulling teeth and all the horror stories you hear or non-horror stories, everybody likes to say it's fine. Like to you, like Kelly had this a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you can relate to that, but so everybody's different. Everybody recovers differently as well. So that's how you get your different stories. Plus you have, weird dentists or doctors that just do stupid things and things happen, unfortunately. That's just margin of error. It happens. So, you combine all of that into one bucket and it's just like all this uncertainty. I don't want to get this done, but I was in so much pain. I didn't have a choice. So my ultimate fear was I did anesthesia. So they had to put me down for it. I just didn't know what to wake up to. That was my fear. Like, am I going to wake up to this excruciating pain? But everybody said, no, you'll be fine. The meds, you won't feel a thing. Sure enough, I didn't feel a thing. I didn't even, I knew the teeth were missing, when they woke me up and I had the gauze in my mouth. And instantly, as I'm coming to, I'm like, all right, there's no pain, but my whole bottom part of my mouth is numb, of course, which is fine. And they said it would be like that. Going throughout the day, the blood was, it stopped pretty soon. It didn't last that long, just as they said. As I took care of myself properly, I healed up. And then I just had to, I was on a regimen of meds that I had to take because you got to take amoxicillin to prevent infections, obviously. Pain meds. I was taking those, but honestly, I guess I was lucky. I got zero pain. Zero. The pain stopped when I woke up from the anesthesia. I had no more pain, and that was the best thing. So my advice to you is just hopefully they're doing anesthesia for yours.
Yeah, I don't know. This is years from now, I'm guessing.
Okay. They're probably going to do anesthesia. When they do, you'll be fine. So I think you were saying the one that it's just one for you that they need to take out.
The two on the bottom are impacted.
Okay. So yeah, that's just like my last wisdom tooth that's not out. It's still in. It's just like yours. It's impacted. So it's underneath the gum
Right.
and it's most likely sideways.
Yes.
And they told me the same thing. They said they're not touching that unless I have a problem. The second I have a problem, then they'll worry about it because they literally have to open up your entire gum to pull it out, and it's also sideways. So it's tougher to pull out. So yeah, you're going to get anesthesia for that one. But yeah, when it happens, I can speak from my experience. It was perfectly fine. I worried for nothing.
Do you have the chipmunk cheeks right now?
No, I never got that.
Oh,
I never had it.
Okay.
I guess I had it only when I had the gauze in my mouth because it was pushing my cheeks out. My wife said I had it for a little while, but then once I stopped, because I only used the gauze for they said for 3 hours after, and the bleeding should stop. And for me, it did. So I didn't need to use it anymore. And my cheeks were fine. I had no issue. I was also told that I was going to be sleepy all the time and not want to do anything. I was freaking fine. I was ready to go to work the next day. I didn't though. Obviously, I took the whole three days they recommended.
Good.
So I guess I'm a different story. I recovered differently. I'm not fully recovered. Obviously, I still, I can't sip through a straw. I can feel the suction. So if anybody wonders why a dentist tells you after you get teeth pulled not to use a straw, it's not because they think that you're going to poke yourself with the straw because your mouth's numb. It's because, and I didn't know this. I finally figured it out when I tried it by accident. The suction, when you suck, you have those holes in your mouth. It'll pull the stitches right out.
Yeah.
If you try, those stitches say bye-bye immediately. And then who knows what kind of pain you're in. And if you break that clot, you're not going to stop bleeding. So it's very dangerous actually. So when your dentist says don't use a straw, there's a very good reason. Don't use a straw. And they also say don't spit because when you do that, you're creating that suction. So anything that creates suction in your mouth is going to pull either the stitches out or pull right after surgery, will pull the clot out. That'll be very bad because then it just won't stop bleeding.
So how'd you spit when you brush your teeth?
So when I brushed my teeth, I just had to put water in my mouth and lightly, I had to move my head around because swishing is dangerous too that early. I just moved my head around to move the water and then just kind of open my mouth and push the water out. It's kind of weird.
Let it drool out.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's not. I had to do it 2 or 3 times to make sure you get it all out.
The most painful thing Kelly went through as far as when she had the wisdom teeth is her jaw wouldn't open as wide as it used to. And when she went to the dentist for the follow-up, he's like, oh yeah, you have to keep trying to open it wider so that it'll get used to. And then he finally took her jaw and he opened it himself and it caused her immense pain. And he's like, there.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So that was the one thing that she was like, that was the most painful. That was more painful than the procedure and afterward and all that. So that's the one thing. But as you said, everyone heals differently.
Yeah. And I tried that too. They didn't tell me about that. And I guess my wife had asked me because I remember doing it. It was a day after. And she was like, your jaw's not sore. Can you open your mouth? So I just opened it way out. She got shocked. She's like, no, don't do that. I was like, why? It doesn't hurt. So I guess, again, I healed differently and I didn't have that problem because they had kind of mentioned do I have issues with my jaw, like a clicking jaw or tightness? Nope, never had those problems. So everyone's different. So hopefully for you, you'll be fine. But I was terrified, turned out to be fine. So there's a success story for you.
Well, good.
One day I'll get to regular food. One day.
Yeah, one day. This week, Leo had a pretty eventful week. He got to see Santa Claus. They did a drive-through where they had Santa on a car, like the town does it every year.
Nice.
And so he got to see Santa again this year, and they throw candy out there, and so that was neat. He's been pretty busy hanging out with some of Kelly's friends' daughters and sons. So he's been seeing other friends. He's been going to school still, but that's been the biggest thing. We got to go pick out a Christmas tree because Kelly, as you know from the show year after year, she likes a real tree in the house because of that pine smell. She says it doesn't feel like Christmas unless it smells like pine. So we went out and picked out a tree, which they got more expensive this you go figure, just like everything else, right?
Yeah.
So, but we found a nice one for $50, and I was like, $50 I'm comfortable with, and it's a nice $50 tree, so great. So we took that one, and Leo got to be a part of that experience and see it, and we put it up in the house, and now we got to decorate it with decorations. There's Christmas lights on the house for the first time ever because Leo saw the neighbors, they had Christmas lights, and he's like, where's our lights? And of course, had to put up the lights, right? And Kelly did a majority of that. But it's one of those things where it's like, well, we don't really get into that, not into the Christmassy thing, aside from the tree, because that's part of Kelly's thing. But otherwise, it's mainly for the in-laws or for my parents, and I still don't know if we're gonna do the Santa thing for him, like, because it's like the first big betrayal for kids.
Sure.
Like, my parents fucking lied to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm gonna do that one. But yeah, it's been a Christmas Eve a week for Leo, and it's felt that way for me too, where I've gotten a bunch of presents wrapped up and doing some last second shopping, which of course it's a fucking nightmare everywhere you go, but for the most part a majority of that is finished. And like I said, I've been watching Halloween, and Kelly's first Halloween movie is the 2018 one, which isn't a bad one to start off with. I gotta tell you, it was actually okay. Have you seen that one yet?
I can't remember. I think that's Rob Zombie's one, right?
No, so he did 2 movies, and those John Carpenter didn't like because they made him too sympathetic, but now John Carpenter's back on as a producer. So this is the one that's number 2, if number 2 never happened. So this is like the direct sequel to 1, where it takes place many years later, which is the first time they brought back Laurie, who's played by Jamie Lee Curtis in the film. So that's how they're like, she's back and she never died.
Right. Okay. I haven't seen the whole thing. I've seen bits of it, unfortunately, but I intend to watch all of them, or the newer ones at least. I've already seen the old ones.
Yeah, after Halloween Kills came out recently, I'm like, and I saw the first one again, and I was like, fuck, man, I want to get back. Like, I just like Fast and the Furious. I'm like, I want to watch them all now, check them all out. So that's kind of where I've been going with this. As soon as I finish the 2018 one, I might go back and watch the original number 2, just so I can get some Dr. Loomis back in my life, because he's obviously not in this one. The actor died years ago and they didn't recast him, thankfully. So that's where I've been kind of going with this as far as my movies and my little bit of free time that I get. And I finished, the Tiger King spinoff, Doc Antle on Netflix.
Yes.
I watched those 3 episodes. He's a fucking piece of shit, as we all knew from the previous Tiger King one. But now you really see that on top of that, he's a kid toucher. So yeah, it was like everyone, as I was telling Kelly, as they show us more of these characters in Tiger King, and yes, they're all characters, everyone's a bigger piece of shit than Joe Exotic. Like,
Oh, of course they are.
Joe Exotic is so like pure compared to all these fucking people. Like, free Joe Exotic.
I actually I shouldn't say enjoyed. I was intrigued by Tiger King season 2 because it was more documentary style.
Mm-hmm.
And we missed out on all the bullshit because it wasn't made as a bullshit, funny show. It's more digging in on the facts, which I liked. And the fact that there's actually a real reason that, as long as it gets progressed, like, he might actually get out of jail for what's happening now, because it's being shown up as, the one dude, I forgot his name, the older guy, and then Jeff Lowe, like, it was this big setup, and they've signed affidavits now, and even the guy on the jet ski, he's even signed an affidavit. They've all turned over, and they're trying to get him out. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes, and then the whole investigation into Baskin,
Carol Baskin, yeah. Oh yeah, the missing guy.
Yeah, Don Lewis.
Don
Lewis.
Don Lewis? Yeah, I think it is Don Lewis.
Like, he's alive apparently in Costa Rica, and they're trying to find him. So that'll be interesting, because if they find him alive, it's all done. Like, that's what they need. So I know some of that's played up for show, obviously, but there's some real facts in there. That's pretty cool. So they're still investigating. It's an open investigation on 2 fronts, obviously, with the missing husband and the getting Joe Exotic out of jail. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't think it was needed, but it was good to have that follow up. Doc Antle I need to watch, though. I had just seen yesterday it released finally, so I'm gonna go watch that, because I know he's a piece of shit.
It's worth watching for sure, and it's all about Doc Antle. There's very little Joe Exotic in there, but you need it for the lore. You know what I mean? Like, it's a spin-off movie type of thing, but it's still important to the main story.
Yeah.
I hope this is doing well for Netflix. Obviously, Tiger King did amazing during the pandemic. And I want to know how many people came back for season 2, or if it was just something to watch type of thing. But I hope it did well for them, because obviously they invested a lot in season 2 and the spinoff. So I want those to do well enough to where they can do another spinoff on maybe one of these other guys, or an entire thing on just Carol Baskin. Who knows? So I would watch every single part of it. And we know that we're getting at least a season 3 with the way that season 2 ended of there's these things happening, all these pieces moving. The recent news of Joe Exotic, unfortunately, having prostate cancer. So that's going to be something that they didn't include in this season 2, but they'll have to in season 3 because it's one of those things that he was saying with a little bit of time left, I want to be free. And hopefully that does happen.
Including that story along the way with that piece of shit that owned that other zoo that had partnered up with Jeff for a little bit, ended up splitting. That guy's a sociopath, man. I'm glad they got him and put him because he was just killing animals flat out.
Right.
I'm surprised. I don't know how he got away with what he did for so long. It's crazy at what he was slimed away with. Same with Jeff Lowe. He's still sliming
I
around.
hate that guy.
But yeah, they got one of them. Now they just need to get the mastermind. So
That's him. Yep. That's awesome, man. I'm really glad you were able to come on this week for the Game Awards highlights and discussion on a lot of the new movies and shows and video games that they announced. I know you're a lot more plugged in on that, as it's very clear on Discord. If you're not on Discord, make sure to be on there because people like Bobby will put up links and gameplay like Matrix Awakens that you put up on there. And you can see some of the latest stuff on Discord. So thanks again, Bobby, for being a part of this rotation.
yeah, of course. And with what he's referring to, I'm not posting spoilers or anything out there, so you don't have to worry about that. It's more of just info news. Like I'm plugged in, so if I see like a trailer for something or something announced or this is happening soon or oh, this is going to happen next year or whatever, that's all I put out there. So you don't have to worry about spoilers. And nobody in our Discord community really spoils either. And if we do, we usually put a warning and we usually tag it as spoiler so it's hidden. So you'd actually purposely have to unhide it if you wanted to see it. So no worries there.
Very true. So let them know, let the Brocat Core know where they can find you, aside from Discord.
Yeah, you can find us in Discord. So please, swing by the Discord, say hello. We got a couple different channels there. One of my favorites is the collectors channel. So you can post your collectibles in there when you get stuff. I think that's a cool little channel to show off our collectibles to each other. And we can all get jealous over different items that we don't have or want. Treasure Hunting Sonic is in there too. He shows off some of his really cool Sonic things. So you can also find me on Twitter, Cuban Slim, QBANSLIM. And as Daniel was just talking about, I stream every so often. I'm not a big streamer, nothing like that, but I just do it for fun while I'm playing a game. And if you do want to see that Matrix test footage, it is on my YouTube channel. So it's the same name, QBANSLIM. And if you want to watch it, it's only like 15 minutes long. And it's pretty cool. So if you don't have a current gen system to play it, I have it up there and you can watch it.
Very cool. I really appreciate it. And to you on the other side, if you want to be heard on the podcast, you can leave us a voicemail. There's a link in the description of every episode. But in case you want to type it in right now, it is at speakpipe.com/thereasonsimBroke. And you can do it from your phone. You can record and send in a 90-second or less voicemail, question, comment, and we may feature it right here on the show. So thank you again for joining us. I've been Daniel, joined by Bobby and Brocat Core. All will be well. Is there anything at the Game Awards this year that you would have wanted to see that unfortunately wasn't shown? I know some people were expecting the new Bully 2 to be announced, and it sounds like the rumor is that they were going to announce it there, but they pulled it back. Was there anything there that you were kind of having an expectation for?
Yeah, and you're right about the Bully. The Bully got canceled. It probably would have been announced there, but it got canceled about a month prior to that. What was I looking forward to that they didn't show? I can't think about it. It was a cross between like I want a new Tomb Raider game. It's been a long while since we've had a new Tomb Raider game, and I enjoy those. That was one of them, but that was like a backseat kind of thing. The other one would have been something to do more with Zelda, because it's still called Zelda 2 Breath of the Wild, like a working title. It's the dumbest title ever.
They should keep it.
And I have a feeling that title's going to change next year. We just don't know what it's going to be, obviously. And it was completely vacant from there. And to be honest, I don't think we saw anything from Nintendo at the Game Awards. We just saw some commercials that they made. Metroid Dread won one of the categories. And I don't think Nintendo games usually do too well at the Video Game Awards. So that was a very big surprise.
Yeah, not unless it's Zelda.
And Dread was also in the category for Game of the Year as well. So that was pretty good. And to have that game make it into there and win one of the categories, that's impressive. Again, that's just Nintendo being Nintendo. They do their own thing. They don't need to have other platforms boast them. So that's probably why we didn't see anything. They'll do it on their own. But yeah, I think Zelda would have been exciting to see. And for me personally, probably Tomb Raider. I'm not yearning for one, but it'd have been great to see something in the works for one, which who knows, that maybe happen one day.
As you said, Nintendo's not going to do a Nintendo Direct type of announcement at something like the Game Awards. They'll do the Nintendo Direct, and that's the big thing. I'm still waiting though, Bobby, for a non-motion control version of Star Fox Zero. Because I know we're not getting a new Star Fox game.
I don't think it's going to happen unless that guy dies, unfortunately.
Miyamoto?
Yeah, every game he touches is motion control, unfortunately. He ruined our last one. We were so hyped for that game.
Yeah, we were.
Huge letdown.